Hello, everybody, and welcome to the market briefing for the week starting December 19th. This is going to be a really quick one. You can probably hear my voice. It's probably not going to last very long. And because of the Rona, I was in bed for the last 2 days of the market. I wasn't paying any attention at all. So I need to feel like I get back up to speed here in the market before I can do any serious analysis. But we'll look at a couple of things that are what's coming up this week, things we should watch out for. So let's get right into it. You can go ahead and hit that like button if you like. And so everything we do here is for educational purposes only. We're not investment advisors and do not provide investment advice. All trading and investment decisions are your own. At times, your own risk. Okay, for earnings this week, starting on Tuesday before the open, I think the most closely watched one will probably be Fuel Cell. After the close, there's Nike. I know that definitely people are going to be watching that one, and also FedEx is pretty important too. I know that FedEx can really move the market actually. On Wednesday before the open, I don't think anybody really cares much about the cruise lines anymore. We got Carnival, but Rite Aid I think is a fairly important one. And then after the close on Wednesday, there's Micron. On Thursday before the open, we've got CarMax, and I think that's kind of just about it for the week. So coming up this week on the economic calendar, Monday there isn't anything. Tuesday we have building typo there. See, I've got COVID foggy brain too. We have building permits and housing starts. On Wednesday we have the CB consumer confidence. That's a really important data point that will move the markets if it comes in away from expectations. On Thursday we have the final GDP revision for Q3. That's fairly important, but usually by the final it doesn't change much. So I mean, if it did get revised and changed a fair bit, I mean that could definitely get the market moving. And also on Thursday, of course, unemployment claims. On Friday is the really big one, PCE, Price Index. The core is the most closely watched one. But as I've mentioned before, PCE Price Index is the inflation metric that the Fed watches. It's Jay Powell's favorite inflation metric. So obviously this is important. And you can see, we know from CPI last week. Can really move the market, and unusual things can happen. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens, this Friday with that. It's also, the Friday before a long weekend for Christmas and everything too. So I think Friday's going to be a bit of a weird day. Also, Friday's apparently the deadline for Congress to pass this $1.7 trillion spending bill. And if they don't pass it, I believe that the government will shut down. I'm sure we'll be hearing more and more about that through the week. Okay, let's get into looking at the market. We're just going to do the major indices. We'll look at oil. I'm not really going to get into all the sectors like we usually do. We'll look at a couple of the FANG stocks. I think they'll give us things to watch for in the market there. And there's no new setups this week. There's maybe some things you should watch. I mean, there will definitely be plays, but I kind of took a quick look and I didn't see anything that looked really nice. I mean, a lot of charts kind of got broken over the last week. So let's get into these charts here. All right, so we're looking at the SPY, the S&P 500. You can see that we were kind of winding up in this big triangle or big pennant here, and fell out the bottom of it after touching the downtrend line in a major resistance area there. So we've had now basically four down days. I mean, this big red day here. I mean, it was a big gap up. Um, Technically, it was an up day. But really, we're looking at four down days here. We're due for a little pop up. We're due for a little recovery rally, a little relief rally here. I kind of don't think we're going to get much out of it. Will we come up? Will we even get through this important 389 to 392 resistance level? You heard me talking about this last week, how important it was that held. Well, it didn't. It's interesting that on Friday I see that this did reverse at some point. Actually, we should look and see when that reversed at some point during the day, because I wasn't watching that through the day. Here we're looking at a 5-minute chart now of the SPY, and we can see, coming into the close, nice rounding pattern through the day, coming into the close. Really nice move up. Not too surprising that sold in the last 20 minutes or so. It being a Friday and it being an ugly week, but this is quite hopeful here. So this, unless something has happened over the weekend that I'm unaware of, this could definitely see some continuation to the upside on Monday. Wouldn't be surprised at all we see some sort of rally. I don't think it's going to be a big rally. I think this needs to go test lower again. So maybe it comes down here and tests this 370. We basically got support every 10 points on the way down here. But not expecting any big fireworks to the upside right now. So that's the SPY. The Qs is pretty much the same thing. Big move down. It's got a little ways to go before it gets to support. I guess it's completely filled that. I don't know why I have that gap still there. Okay. So again, if this rallies at all, I mean, it almost has to get through support to sort of rally at all. This is probably more interesting to me, for watching to see what happens, right? If we move up or gap up on Monday, that almost certainly puts us above. We're at resistance and also this 50-day moving average. If we can get above that, do we get to Thursday's high? And what happens there? So, watch the Q. I think the Qs are probably more important to watch in the early part of next week, maybe than the SPY. IWM. IWM had a nice reversal, but still indecisive looking here. So, and probably the weakest of the three. All right, let's take a look at the volatility index. This is kind of chopping around all week. Hasn't really spiked up at all. After this big spike up and then the pull right back and gave it all back, it's just kind of been choppy since then. You could almost say it's drawing a little bit of a bear flag there, maybe even, but I don't know. It's just a bit of a choppy mess. Hard to figure out what's going on there. But it is, considering how we pulled back all week long, it's good to see that this hasn't jumped up a whole bunch. And let's look at TNX. This is the 10-year yield. And it's interesting to see that this hasn't really moved much during the week. Let's go back and look at SPY. Look what SPY did, right? In a week that we had the Fed. And I guess I actually should mention the Fed, right? So going back to SPY here, this big red day here was CPI day, right? And we had that good CPI print. Everything looks cool, and then they just sold it. And then the next day was Fed day, and it was, really volatile. Even though they only raised half a point, the market kind of got what it wanted. But the Fed was pretty hawkish in their statement, and Powell was a little grumpy and hawkish in his press conference. And so, we chopped around, but mostly came down. The next day it gapped down quite a bit, and then we're down through the week. So anyway, this is the week we had. So keep this in context when we look at a couple of the other things we're going to be looking at, and we look at a couple of individual stocks later. Keep this big move in context. So anyway, if we go back to the 10-year yield now, hardly any movement out of this, right? It's going sideways and it's winding up. It's still behaving in its downtrend. It's maybe made a little bit of support here, but it's winding up inside this. It wouldn't be surprising to see this break out to the downside. And if this breaks out to the downside, then, the market could be moving up. I'm not 100% confident of that by any stretch of the imagination, but it is one of the possibilities here. Okay, let's look at the dollar index. You can see the dollar index chopped around a bunch. It did find support at this level. I drew this level in ages ago, and it's definitely come into play again. Found some support there, but really, it only had a 2-day move, and the second day momentum slowed quite a bit as it's approaching resistance. Wouldn't surprise me to see the dollar roll over here too, which would again be good for equities. I guess we should look at the dollar cost averaging system. You can see in the SPY has now given our first warning. The MACD is still above the signal line, so we haven't gone full on red yet, but this is definitely cautionary here. And the Qs, again, hasn't gone full on red, but is not looking pretty. And IWM, I think, is now, okay. One more red week, and this will cross over and go to full red, rather than just caution. So that's what's going on there. Let's see. Let's look at gold. I don't think much happened in gold. Yeah, gold is chopping around, in around that important 1800 level. Oil. Oil has tagged the declining 21-day moving average and kind of rolled over here. You can see we're really setting up now in a downward wedge. We would at some point expect to see this break to the upside, but it looks to me like oil needs to put in another leg down. Will it find out? You know what? Let's draw this. Let's get a little line in here. We've got a nice little double bottom there. Does that act as support, or does it get all the way down to the trend line? Only time will tell. If this turns early, if it turns before the support or before this trend line, that would suggest that we roll back up and possibly break out the top side of the wedge. All right, I'm not going to, like I said, I'm not going to go through all the sectors, because they all kind of look the same, right? They all look pretty red. But we will look at some individual stocks. Meta, interestingly. Now remember what the markets look like this week. And here's Meta. Now this is primarily because of a bill in either the Senate or Congress, or the House, I can't remember which. Somebody introduced a bill to ban TikTok. So that's obviously good for Meta and some of the other social media apps like Pinterest. That may be another one, interesting one. I'll let you look at that one on your own. But considering what the market did this week, Meta's held up here really well. So it's a little surprising to see some relative strength, albeit very short-term relative strength, out of Meta. So that could make this one to watch for the week going forward. But remember, we're still in this massive downtrend, and we're still kind of like, under resistance here, a level it hasn't been able to get through. In fact, I should just tweak this line up just a little bit to the top of these. There we go. That looks better. So yeah, a break above this could be interesting, and getting through that trend line. I mean, it could potentially really go because people do love this stock. Apple, on the other hand, Apple's in a scary spot. Apple does look like the market looked. Apple, sort of behaving. I'm going to just adjust that downtrend line there. But Apple, really kind of broke down this week. On Friday, it stopped this massive decline right at what I'm now calling a major support line. If it doesn't turn up from here, though, another down day on Monday. It's coming down to test this pivot, and below that, I know we drew in some of these lines before. Yeah, below that, there's very little support below that. So we need to see this. We need to see this level hold. So that's some potential ugly. When you're watching the Qs, you should be watching Meta closely, Apple closely, and also watching Tesla. Oh, another thing I should mention in the Qs, I'm not sure what day it's happening, if it's happening all week. There's a rebalancing going on in the NASDAQ index. Pretty sure that Tesla is going to get downgraded it's going to have less weighting in the index going forward after this rebalancing, and that's probably a good thing for the index, a good thing for the markets in general, because Tesla is becoming a disaster here. I know all the Tesla bulls are saying, oh, this 150 level is going to hold. Well, I mean, look how much momentum it had going into that 150. And yeah, this is a very logical spot for this to bounce. It has had quite the extension to the downside. You can see in the RSI here a slight, ever so slight RSI divergence going on here. So that's another reason that we could see a bounce here. But when we zoom out, it's just not pretty. I mean, I talked about how it looks like we're beginning a stage 4 decline. And if that's the case, if my thesis is right on that, it gets really ugly for Tesla. But breaking below 150, the next stop, next support is 135, and then probably 120, and then it just gets really nasty after that. So yeah, if you're still in this, I don't know what to say. You're really hoping for some bounce here. Yeah, I mean, there are some hints that maybe there will be a bounce, but there's also plenty of information on this chart. This is a lot more downside coming. I wish I could leave you on a bright note. I don't have anything else to. Yeah, no, I don't know. I think we'll just close out on that. Sorry to close out on bad news like that, but sometimes that's the way it goes. All right, so what's next? Okay, so coming up next week, so I had to postpone my move because of I was supposed to be moving today. I probably would have died or ended up in hospital if I actually tried to move today, because it would have been like trying to pack when I was spending 2.5 days in bed. But anyway, Wednesday, the mentoring session, Ticker Talk. We'll have to cancel that one because I'm going to get ready to move on Friday. And then one of these 2 days, either Christmas, because I'm not doing family thing on Christmas. I was supposed to be doing it the next day, but obviously my mom is older, and I don't know if I have any hint of any sort of like sniffles or cough or anything. I'll be canceling my visit to my mom and the rest of the family, because gotta protect the family from this stuff, right? So anyway, next week, either on Christmas Day or Boxing Day, we'll do another briefing, and it will be more detailed than today's was. So I guess I won't be talking to everybody. I won't see you again until, or I guess Christmas or the day after. So I want to wish everybody happy holidays. Be safe. Enjoy your time with your family, and have a good week. I'll see you in the Discord. Have a good week in markets, hopefully, and again, happy holidays. Thanks.